One Piece, Marco ascends as the ultimate phoenix. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 1. In the New World, on a deserted island, a residual sun shone on the island, and the barren mountains and forests were dragged out of a long oblique shadow. What is this place? Marco opened his eyes and looked at the barren mountains and forests in front of him stunned, and then his expression changed from stunned to excited, and his excited hands danced. I'm still alive? That's great. I'm alive, and there is hope for everything. It feels so good to be alive. He was originally a terminally ill youth on Earth. His original name was not Marco, and in the days of longing to live, he changed his name to Marco. The reason is very simple. He likes to watch One Piece since he was a child. After the death of Whitebeard, his favorite character is the undead bird Marco, who was tormented by a terminal illness, changed his name to Marco, is to hope that he can have the ability of the fruit of the undead bird like Marco, be reborn in nirvana, overcome the disease, and live strongly. This sounds a bit middle of the low, but in fact, when a person is terminally ill, only that short life and death await him. Even a little hope will make people's hearts stronger. When he was on Earth, he insisted on exercising in order to overcome the terminal illness. He longed to have a strong body, he longed to overcome the disease, and he was even more eager to live. Merely. After all, I still couldn't overcome the disease. Thundered. The excited Marco accidentally slapped a big tree that can only be held by two people, only to hear a click. The tree broke in response, booming, the whole tree tilted down, black smoke was emitting from the broken trunk, and Marco's hand was burning with light blue flames. This scene made Marco's whole person stunned. My body? My power? And this light blue flame? Airplanes. At this time, a huge number of memories emerged from the depths of Marco's memory. At this moment of memory, Marco's whole person was like suffering 3,000 thunders, and he was shocked beyond words. I'm still alive. Is it because I crossed? I'm now the captain of One Piece World, Whitebeard Pirates, Undead Bird Marco? Now after the Top War, the remnants of Whitebeard fought with the Blackbeard Pirates, defeated and fled. The rest of the members of the Whitebeard pirate group fled in all directions. A collection of villages that everyone will build in Whitebeard? There's the whole legacy of Whitebeard there? Whereas on this desert island, I am the only one. The Blackbeard Pirates are hunting me down with all their might. They want to completely wipe out the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates? Kill the village founded by Whitebeard? There are still many people who want to find me? Delusional desire to annex the legacy left by Whitebeard? His Majesty 7 Marshal Seas, Edward Weibel? For Emperors and 100 Beasts Pirates? For Emperors, Big Mom Pirates? Admiral Red Inu? Even the world government secretly sent CP agencies? So many people want to take Whitebeard's legacy from me? Or do you want me to die? I really crossed? And became a real Marco? Information flashed in Marco's mind, and the whole person couldn't help but be angry. So many people wanted him to die, but in this life, he would definitely not give up the opportunity to live. In this life, you must not die at the hands of others. He spread out his hands, and saw a light blue flame move with his thoughts, and with a roar, it appeared on his palm, burning slowly, and the beating flame was reflected in his eyes. Animal Department, Phantom Beast Species, Undead Bird Fruit Ability. According to his memory, Marco used the fruit ability, and with a buzz, a pair of flaming flame wings burning with light blue flames grew behind him, and the blue flames were like wings, beating and burning, and his body also burned with blue flames, and the huge wings shook, and the body flew. Oh. Marco flew for a while, and then landed. At this moment, he was completely sure that he not only replaced Marco, but also obtained the original Marco's combat ability, fruit ability, memory, and so on. On Earth, I desperately wanted to live, but I failed. But now, when I cross, I will never allow death to happen to me again. Those who want to kill me. Weibel, Blackbeard, Kaido, Red Inu. One day, I'll slaughter you all. Ding. At this moment, a virtual system voice sounded. Detecting that the host has an unwavering belief that the system conditions are met, the system begins to bind. 0%. 10%. 66%. 100%. System binding successful. Binding system? Marco was stunned, but he did not expect that he not only became the real Marco, but also like other novel protagonists, he had the blessing of the golden finger of the system, which was simply perfect. Calming his mind, Marco said, System, what's your name? This system is called Super Assistance System. What functions do you have? The Super Assistance System has very powerful functions, but it needs to be developed by the host one by one. Marco was stunned for a while. And this kind of system, is it reliable? He wondered. System, are you sure you are serious? How to prove that you are very powerful? Don't worry about that. The starter pack has been distributed to the host, please open it by yourself. Open the starter pack and the host will understand if the system is serious. Starter pack? Then start now. The starter pack is opening. 0%. 10%. 66%. 100%, start successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a complete elimination of side effects once. Side effects are completely eliminated, which can eliminate the side effects of the devil fruit, completely ignoring the curse of the devil. The sea floor stone and sea water cannot restrain the host fruit ability. Congratulations to the host for perfect healing once. The host is currently suffering from internal injuries, and the dark fruit ability from Blackbeard has injured the physical foundation of the host. Even if the host has regenerative inflammation in a short time, it is difficult to completely recover. But as long as you use perfect healing, all injuries can be perfectly healed. Episode 2. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the perfect match of fruit ability once. It allows the host to perfectly control the fruit ability of the undead bird, so as to independently develop the fruit ability. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the fruit ability development auxiliary mechanism. The system will assist the host in the in-depth development of fruit ability, so that the host can easily develop stronger fruit ability. Let the host fight. In battle, the system will assist the host, and strengthen and develop the body and fruit abilities in more depth. Fight, undead bird. The system will use all resources to make the host stronger. How does it sound like a pyramid scheme? The more Marco listened, the more he felt that the system was unreliable. System, don't I need to collect any shock values? Sentiment value? Or the devil fruit? Or go around the world looking for treasure chests? Or complete a task or something? No need. The system is quite bold. It sounds like an upstart, and Marco can even brain make up the picture of the system avatar with a big belly and a big hand. The host just fights and kills the enemy as much as he wants, and the system will provide the most powerful auxiliary mechanism when the host is tired and thirsty and sleepy. The auxiliary host is in the simplest, easiest way to improve ability, improve physical skills, and develop fruit ability. Marco helped his forehead. This system is a superlative, not playing cards according to the normal routine at all. But this is not a good thing, at least you don't have to work hard for the system. Marco feels that this system should not be called a super assistance system, it should be called need for assist system. Let's try whether this system is reliable first. Marco thought, and immediately said to the system, let's try side effects completely eliminated first. Ding. Complete elimination of side effects is underway for the host. 0%. 20%. 66%. 100%. Congratulations to the host, successfully eliminated the side effects of the devil fruit ability. Now the host can go to the sea and try it. Wow. Marco immediately summoned huge wings more than 10 meters long, flew over the mountains and forests, and landed on the coast. Reach out and try it first. When Marco's right hand was completely plunged into the sea, he did not feel the restriction of the sea on him, and even felt that it was cold and comfortable. Try it. Thump. Marco jumped into the sea, his body swam freely, and the side effect of the devil fruit, dry duck, was completely eliminated. Marco swims in the sea, to wash away the past and welcome a new life. Crash. When Marco came out of the sea, the setting sun dragging his shadow long, he dried his clothes with a low-temperature flame. Marco looked up at the sunset. Under the sunset, there was a sea full of adventure, and unknown, microwave sparkling, quite pleasing to the eye. This is a new life. In this life, I will live well, and I will not let any enemy take my life. At this time, Marco suddenly felt a dull pain in his heart, and he knew that this must be what the system said was an injury from Blackbeard's dark fruit. System, I'm going to do perfect healing. Perfect healing in progress. System, I want to carry out fruit ability perfect fit. Perfect fit of fruit ability in progress. Marco could feel that after the system's prompt sounded, two strange energies emerged in his body, and his body underwent various changes. Phew. Long lost health, long lost sense of wellness. As long as I keep fighting, the system can constantly assist me, making it easier for me to develop deeper and more powerful undead bird fruit abilities. Thinking of this, Marco couldn't help but look forward to it. He is full of expectations for the development of the ability of the devil fruit, and there are many paths for development, which can be the development of several different forms like Choba, or the development form of several gears similar to Luffy, and even Marco has thought of some abilities from other worlds. For example, the bone spirit cold fire with freezing ability. The phantom beast species is special, and the undead bird fruit ability is a special flame. No matter what kind of development method, it is worth looking forward to. It's really exciting. Let's leave this uninhabited desert island first. In the world of pirates, where danger is everywhere, Marco understands that strength is the only criterion, especially in the new world. There are countless vicious people, and he must integrate into this world concept in order to live better. Huh? Wait, there is someone ahead? Marco looked to the west, and along the setting sun, he could see a figure slowly coming from the sea on the Golden Sea. This man. Riding a bicycle, along the sea, slowly coming. Episode 3, Squeaky Squeak. Under the shadow of the setting sun, above the Golden Sea, a tall man in an army green coat stepped on an ordinary bicycle, moving forward on the sea without hurrying. and made a squeak sound as the man pedaled the bicycle. The waves rolled, but they could not wet the man, and where the bicycle wheel passed, the sea was frozen, leaving a frozen track that reflected the golden light of the setting sun and did not melt for a long time. On the side of the bicycle, a bulky and cute penguin, carrying a school bag, 1 foot deep and 1 shallow foot on the ice track to move forward together. This penguin seems to be very afraid of the cold, hanging with snot bubbles, dumb appearance, stupid and cute. Not long after, the man rode his bicycle and his pet penguin to the shore of the desert island. Admiral of the Navy headquarters. No, Blackbeard Pirates fighter, Kuzan. Marco stood on the shore, looked at the man who stopped not far away, and spoke. The person who came was none other than the former general of the naval headquarters, the Green Pheasant, who lost the battle with the Red Dog for the post of marshal of the headquarters after the war at the top, and now he has joined the Blackbeard Pirates. Blackbeard Pirates. It's the enemy. You should be surprised that I can find here, right? Kuzan raised his head and looked at Marco on the shore. He received news from Blackbeard that Marco had a secret wound and his strength was greatly reduced. Kuzan said lightly, "Come with me, you really plan to do things for Blackbeard?" Marco's eyes narrowed into a slit. This will be the first battle he has crossed over. The general of the naval headquarters Green Pheasant, the natural system of frozen fruit ability, absolutely not the slightest carelessness. He doesn't want to die before he can get out of the army, this life. He will never allow anyone who wants to kill him. Stay alive. I didn't want to kill you, but I need Blackbeard's power. Kuzan got out of the car. He bent down to carefully prop up the bike, stood up, the sea breeze blew his coat huntingly. He looked at Marco and said, standing on the opposite side, "It's useless to talk more. If you get caught with your hands, you can suffer less." Bellow. Without the slightest warning, a blue flame appeared in the sky behind Marco. A pair of huge flame wings up to more than 10 meters long instantly vibrate. In the blue flame jumping in the sky, Marco flew up, rushed to Kuzan in an instant, leaving a blue flame trail in the air. Almost in the blink of an eye, he approached Kuzan's side. Marco kicked out violently. Kuzan crossed his hands in cross-blocking. Boom. The terrifying power came from Marco's feet, and Kuzan instantly flew out upside down. Ice Age. Kuzan flying upside down, suddenly exerted force with both hands. The terrifying natural system ability instantly gushed out frantically. Extremely cold temperature, in an instant, shrouded this side of the world. The sea surface of the rolling waves, in the process of Kuzan flying upside down, constantly turned into pieces of ice. Even the tumbling waves was frozen in midair. The power of nature and frozen fruits is undoubtedly revealed. If you're fighting on the sea, you will only be at a disadvantage. Kuzan flipped and landed on a frozen wave, and he greeted Marco and said. In his opinion, Marco is tantamount to being a madman by doing this. Oh, yes. If I had changed to before, I would not have dared to fight people on the sea. Those with devil fruit ability, only you Kuzan dare to fight people on the sea. Can. Right now. It's different. Whoosh. Marco, who vibrated his huge flaming wings and flew in midair, did not say more, and swooped towards Kuzan again, approaching Kuzan and punching out. Standing on top of the frozen waves, Kuzan jumped up to Marco and punched Marco with his left hand. The moment the two fists clashed, the icy cold air instantly emerged, and the freezing power swept up from Kuzan's fist towards Marco, and the latter's fist was instantly frozen. The extremely cold freeze quickly spread towards Marco's arm and body. The crystal freeze constantly covers Marco's right body. The biting chill made Marco more awake, his body shook, the power exploded, and almost all the freezing was instantly shattered and shaken, turning into ice slag in the sky and falling. Shout. At this moment, in Kuzan's other hand, a short spear of ice crystals with a cold breath appeared and stabbed at Marco rapidly. Prick. At the moment when the frozen short spear pierced into Marco's body, blue flames appeared, covering the frozen short spear, forcing Kuzan to give up the short spear, and with one blow, Kuzan also wanted to retreat. Can. At this time, the huge wings that were more than 10 meters long behind Marco had already enveloped him, and in an instant, they rolled up Kuzan. You're crazy. Kuzan, who was shrouded in blue flame wings, instantly changed his face dramatically, and at this moment, he thought of what Marco wanted to do. Updated, thank you for prompting. You can urge more in the book review area. The author will be more motivated. Codewords. Vote for the flower evaluation, don't be lazy. Episode 4, Madman. Kuzan, who has always been calm, felt unable to understand Marco's behavior at this moment. But Marco didn't pay attention to him at all. Boom. The blue flame wings that are more than 10 meters long and wrapped around Marco and Kuzan will be shattered by the frozen sea of the Ice Age in an instant, and the two will fall into the sea together. For a time, the ice slag in the sky exploded in all directions, and the seawater surged out wildly, splashing in all directions. Terrifying impact power, spreading above the ice. Dense cracks appeared on the entire ice surface. Click. Immediately after, in the coastal area, the entire frozen sea surface continued to burst, countless ice blocks were lifted away, and the seawater rushed upwards. Bang! The penguins and bicycles that remained not far away were directly lifted by the power of the ice explosion, and I don't know if it was lucky or what's going on. After the stupid penguins and bicycles flew off, they fell on the coast, and they did not sink to the bottom of the sea. In the sea, Marco, who was originally holding on to Kuzan, suddenly exerted his strength and kicked away the dry duck, Kuzan. The huge force directly kicked Kuzan into the seawater and rolled several times, causing Kuzan's face to turn blue, but he couldn't care about the pain at the moment, and Kuzan, who could not use the ability to freeze fruits, became a real dry duck in the seawater, struggling indiscriminately, trying to survive from the seawater. At this moment, Kuzan's eyes were full of incredulity, and his mind was full of questions. What's going on? Everyone is a dry duck? Why can Marco kick me hard in the sea? However, at this time, Kuzan couldn't care about this, and he struggled desperately, trying hard to surface his body upwards. After trying the taste of seawater for the first time and drinking several sips of salty seawater, Kuzan finally struggled to float up from the seawater to the surface by instinct, and could breathe. As a result, when he raised his eyes, Kuzan was dumbfounded, and he saw Marco vibrating his flaming wings, easily hovering in the air, like watching a circus performance, watching himself struggling desperately in the sea. At the moment, Kuzan, who is still struggling on the surface of the sea, is full of shock and go to pieces. Crash. At this time, a wave rolled over, knocking over the struggling Kuzan in an instant, and Kuzan, who was washed into the sea again, saw only white waves and blue flames. Poof. At this time, the stupid cute penguin who was wrapped in this school bag finally found that something was wrong and rushed into the sea. Crash. After a long time, the penguins rushed out to the sea, carrying Kuzan, who had been choked by the sea with difficulty, slowly swam to the shore, turned Kuzan to the shore, and the penguins were so tired that their tongues were sticking out. Hiccup. Kuzan, who burped, barely opened his eyes and immediately vomited several mouthfuls of seawater. Wow. Marco fell from midair, the blue flames dissipated, and he could have killed Kuzan in the sea, but he didn't do that in the end, and finally let Kuzan's little pet penguin save him, and then he fell. The short spear left by Kuzan on Marco's body had long been dissolved by the blue flames, and did not leave the slightest wound. It is obviously unwise to fight a protracted battle with a naval headquarters general, so Marco chose to drive it into the sea, so that he can fight quickly and defeat Kuzan in the shortest time. Why didn't you kill me? After half a ring, Kuzan, who was dizzy by the sea, looked up at Marco and asked inexplicably. Now. In Kuzan's mind, there are too many questions and shocks. Blackbeard will definitely die at my hands in the future, and everyone in the Blackbeard pirate group will also be slaughtered by me. Marco has his own plans. If he can have such a strong assistant as Kuzan, it will definitely be of great use in the future, not to mention, he has read the original book, and he clearly grasps Kuzan's character weaknesses. This former admiral of the naval headquarters attaches great importance to kindness and repayment of kindness in his heart, and belongs to the kind of person who spares his life today, and will definitely repay him with his life in the future. In addition, they have a common enemy. Looking forward to the complete eradication of the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates and the elimination of Marco's red dog. Obviously, the benefits of keeping Kuzan are far greater than killing Kuzan. The only thing that keeps Marco with killing intent. It is that Kuzan will not make an easy decision. Once Kuzan refuses, Marco will not hesitate to kill him. Kuzan supported the penguin and stood up, covered in sea and sand, extremely embarrassed, but he quickly regained his composure. You're no match for Blackbeard. Hearing Marco's words, Kuzan subconsciously said, in his subconscious, the current Blackbeard, Devil Fruit ability, powerful to terrifying, almost the strongest existence, is no longer something Marco can deal with. But suddenly, Kuzan remembered the scene where Marco was not cursed by the sea just now, and Kuzan's whole person couldn't help but be shocked. It is clear that Marco is a person of ability, but in the sea water, he can actually burst out of terrifying power, and he can use the ability of the undead bird to fly out of the sea water unharmed. Thinking of this, Kuzan's whole person was shocked, like a lightning strike. It's full of unknowns, full of weirdness, full of new worlds of wonder. Is there really some kind of power that makes those with devil fruit abilities no longer cursed by the sea? Kuzan's heart was shocked like a river and a sea, and when he thought about it, Marco is not cursed by the sea and should have gotten some kind of adventure. And thinking of it, Kuzan couldn't help but be horrified. What you said. Maybe it will really become a reality. Kill Blackbeard and the Blackbeard Pirates. Episode 5. I'll let you go. Naturally there are conditions. Marco began, you owe me a life, and if I have any use in the future, you must agree unconditionally. I wonder why you're not afraid of the sea. This was what surprised Kuzan the most. He never thought that a person with the ability of the devil fruit could actually move freely in the sea. Kuzan's words did not answer the question, but they also indirectly indicated his attitude. I have deeply developed the ability of the phantom beast species and undead bird, which is similar to your frozen seawater. Marco casually made an excuse. He knew that Kuzan had acquiesced to his own conditions, which was very important to Marco, and that Kuzan would be a key factor in the future when he encountered the Blackbeard Pirates. For the explanation given by Marco, Kuzan thought about it. The fruit ability of the animal system and phantom beast species is even rarer than the fruit ability of the natural system, and the development of the ability of the phantom beast species is probably only clear to the ability itself. Not to mention the phantom beast species, even the animal system and everyone fruits can carry out all kinds of strange developments, such as the ability of the great Buddha form fruit of the warring states, but it can hit a terrifying shockwave, and in the war, it is even able to instantly knock down all the members of the Blackbeard pirate group. Perhaps Marco developed the fruit's abilities on a deeper level after defeating Blackbeard. Kuzan thought so. Marco continued, just as if nothing had happened. You are still a member of the Blackbeard Pirates. Remember my conditions. If I need it, you must unconditionally agree. The seemingly simple fight between the two hides a danger that ordinary people do not know. For Kuzan, although the final loss was not very honorable, when he lost was a loss, he did not have half a complaint, even if it was a head-on battle. He did not dare to guarantee that he could win the current Marco 100%. Originally he thought that Marco must be seriously injured, now it seems. It seems that I think too much. Kuzan didn't say much, just nodded. For Marco, the short fight with Kuzan also made him more familiar with the battles in the pirate world and had a deep understanding of his own strength. I'm leaving this island. After Marco finished speaking, the blue flame wings appeared again, and the huge flame wings up to more than 10 meters long shook, and Marco flew up. For a while, the wind was blowing, and Kuzan below raised his head, his eyes left with Marco, but his heart was like a river, compared with the war on top. Marco has gotten stronger. In the top war, Kuzan had fought against Marco, one of them as the youngest admiral of the naval headquarters, the other as the captain of the Whitebearded pirate group. The two are completely opposites, from now on. It seems that it is no longer the opposite. Marco flew against the surface of the sea, and the blue flame wings inflamed, startling countless marine fish, which was quite spectacular from a distance. Marco wants to find a pirate ship to save his physical energy, although flying feels good, but he doesn't want to waste unnecessary physical energy. After all, this is a new world full of unknowns and dangers. Ding. At this time, Marco sounded a system prompt in his mind. In the battle between the host and the natural frozen fruit ability, the super auxiliary system activates the fruit ability development auxiliary mechanism. The host initially comprehends the ice form and the water element, and the host can combine the comprehended elements for fruit ability development. Huh? Marco was happy in his heart, but he didn't expect that this short battle would be fruitful. Sure enough, combat is the best way to improve your strength and develop your fruit ability. A huge centipede-like sea king, rushing out of the sea, full of lin armor, but with a huge blood mouth like a crocodile, it unfolded its blood basin mouth, and tore at Marco flying in midair. Woohoo! The pair of huge flame wings behind Marco suddenly opened forward, like wings. The flame wings immediately split into densely packed blue short spears, and the crystal blue short spears surrounded the blue flames, shooting towards the sea kings, emitting a sharp sound of breaking the wind. Poof! Without exception, the blue short spear like a sudden rain directly pierced the Sea King's lin armor, leaving a dense hole, and the Sea King was instantly bombarded and fell towards the rear. Just when the Sea King was about to fall into the seawater, the holes in its body burst out of a stream of cold air, and then, the huge body of the Sea King was directly frozen. Not only that, the freezing gas also froze the sea surface below the Sea King directly, forming a Sea King ice sculpture. Very good means of concealing sexual killing. For the trick he just developed, Marco is more satisfied. With systematic assistance, it is very easy to develop. Marco is full of expectations for the future. Blue flame with freezing properties. There is also a regenerative inflammation that can make itself immortal. The only regret is that the blue flame of the undead bird fruit does not have the burning ability of real flame, so I don't know if I can develop the ability of real flame. At this time, it was already the next morning. Marco flew a long distance last night, and did not see half a figure, and finally had to find an isolated island for the night, which had to make Marco sigh that this sea area is really desolate enough. In order to avoid the pursuit of the Blackbeard pirates, what kind of barren sea did Marco hide in? After flying for another half day, Marco looked at the sea and showed joy, finally saw a pirate ship. In the distance, a large pirate ship is driving sideways. The most eye-catching thing about this pirate ship is that on the two masts on it, there are two different pirate flags, one of which is the most eye-catching huge pirate flag. Above the huge white skull, there is a pair of curved sharp horns, making the whole flag look extremely hideous. Episode 6. Above the deck of a huge pirate ship. Boss. We've been wandering around this sea for a week, and we found even half a hair of Marco. Damn it, this barren sea. If he has the heart to hide it and tire us out, he will not find it. That's it, boss. How injured did Marco get, you say? He is also the first person under Whitebeard Pirates in the Whitebeard Pirates. Even if we find him, do we have to wait for Captain Jack to arrive before acting? A group of pirates are discussing Marco. This group of pirates, one by one, burly and muscular, but talking about Marco, there will also be a hint of caution on the face full of horizontal meat, but it is not that they are timid, but Marco has fought a battle at the top and is famous. You cowards, you are really disgrace to our group of 100 beasts and pirates. If your words are heard by Captain Jack, I am afraid that you will be thrown into the sea to feed the fish. Tell you, even if Captain Jack is gone, we can still take Marco. He has already been seriously injured, and I am afraid that there is no combat strength left. Besides, Blackbeard doesn't dare spread false news to us. He knows the consequences of angering Captain Kaido, the pirate known as the boss, with a body as tall as 6 or 7 meters, his voice is like thunder, and his face is vicious. This is Dresk, the right-hand man of Drought Jack under the 100 Beasts pirate group, who is famous in the New World, and the reward amount is as high as 650 million. For the 100 Beasts pirates, the Mammoth Fleet, the first person under Drought Jack. Dresk grinned and licked his lips. If Marco is captured alive and awaits us, it will be an inexhaustible treasure. And enchanting and sexy women. Whitebeard's legacy, who doesn't want to fight for? Catch Marco and we'll be rich. Wealth, women, and maybe Captain Kaido's reuse. Ha 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 ha. Hearing wealth and women, one pirate after another licked their lips and let out raging laughter. Boss. I see Marco? At this moment, the pirates in charge of patrolling on the lookout suddenly said loudly. Marco? Dresk was surprised and delighted, and immediately ordered, catch up immediately. This time, he must not be allowed to escape. Boss. How? We don't have to catch up. Markota. It's flying fast towards us. Rumble. The moment the sonic boom sounded, a cone-shaped blue pillar of flame appeared, instantly shattering the observation tower into slag, and the debris in the sky directly shot into the sea, emitting a popping sound, and even stirred up waves. The pirates above didn't even have time to jump off, and were directly blasted away, accompanied by debris into the sea. Whoosh! Soon, a young man with huge flame wings more than 10 meters long flew down, and as the blue flames dissipated, Marco's face appeared in everyone's eyes. Marco recognized the pirate flag with sharp horns from a distance, the 100 Beasts pirates. Undead bird Marco. Dresk stared at Marco, who landed on the other side of the bow, and the vicious expression on his face said it all. I've been looking for you for a long time. Looking for me? Marco's calm voice came. Why don't I remember? The 100 Beast pirates, and a character like you. Dresk's face twitched. You're crazy. I really didn't know you existed. Marco really didn't notice the existence of such a character in the original book. Maybe he didn't read the comics seriously enough. The result, but it's okay, soon. You wouldn't exist. Roar. Dresk roared angrily, and his huge body rampaged towards Marco, his huge fists raised high, aiming at Marco, and directly blasting. The boss is angry. What a terrifying force. This kind of violent attack, I'm afraid few people can withstand it. As Dresk's guy rushed towards Marco, the entire giant pirate ship shook. The fierce fist wind accompanied by a huge shadow enveloped Marco, blowing the clothes on Marco's body to a hunting sound, and Marco raised his head and punched out at Dresk. Boom! The two clashed hard with a punch, and in an instant, a circle of ripples erupted in the air, constantly spreading, shaking the entire giant pirate ship to make a creaking sound, and the hull stirred up countless waves. What? The next moment, the pirates on the ship were shocked, revealing incredible colors, one by one. I saw Dresk's huge body, directly flying out, booming, the huge body smashed the cabin, and countless fragments flew out. It's really not a powerful character. Marco stood in place unharmed, clenched his fists, and said to himself, unless it is the existence of the other two who have not yet appeared in the 3 major disasters, the powerful characters in the 100 Beasts pirate group, who have appeared, will definitely be able to remember. Listening to Marco's words, the pirates on this pirate ship turned red one by one. Episode 7, Roar. Dresk, who was buried in the debris of the cabin, suddenly rushed out, clicked, and a sound of collision of Lin armor sounded in vain, only to see that Dresk, who was already 6 or 7 meters high, turned into a huge rhinoceros in vain. Moreover, this is a mutant rhinoceros wearing black Lin armor. The black Lin armor has ink light flowing. You can imagine how terrifying its defense power is, and the sharp horns above its head are even sharper. Animal lineage, ancient species, mutant ink armored rhinoceros. It's actually an ancient breed of ability, a group of 100 beasts and pirates. Sure enough, there are animal devil fruit abilities everywhere. Marco was slightly surprised in his heart, which made him can't help but think that the abilities of the Big Mom pirate group are all related to eating. Whether it is Marco's memory or the original plot, the news about the 100 Beasts pirate group is quite rare. Even if there is a battle with the Whitebeard Pirates, it is generally Kaido himself. Because Kaido likes to act alone and be alone, whether it is several times provoking a war with the Whitebeard Pirates, or several times rushing into the naval headquarters, Kaido is alone. Marco. Unexpectedly, even if you are injured, you still have such a strong strength. I underestimated you before. Next. Let me tear you to shreds. The deformed behemoth Dresk's eyes were filled with terrifying blood, and he roared. The sound shook the pirate flag above the mast, and the sharp horns on the white skull looked extremely dazzling. Crash. Waves crashed against the hull of the ship, making a roar. The boss stormed away this time. Hide. Even just being wiped by the boss is enough to smash the solid steel. Many pirates saw Dresk's huge red eyes and the sharp horns, and they couldn't help but tremble. I've seen Dresk shoot and kill a sea thief who was famous in the New World. That sharp corner, even steel more than 10 meters thick, can be penetrated. Boom. Speaking too late, the huge Dresk slammed into Marco, shaking the entire pirate ship as it ran, stirring up countless waves in the hull, and a violent noise followed. Facing the huge mutant rhinoceros that rushed to kill, Marco clenched his right fist, his body swung back in vain, and in an instant, he gathered all the power of his whole body into his right fist. Airplanes. Not only that, above his right fist, there was a blue flame beating and burning. Boom. Saying that it was too late and too fast, Marco punched out, landing on the huge rhino horn, and the moment the two extremely frightening forces collided, a round of ripple-like fluctuations appeared in the air. There were countless white chi formations around the two, raging towards the rear. There was a sharp and piercing sound, and for a while, two storms were formed, rolling out backwards towards the two people. Click. The extremely solid deck under the feet of the two cracked in vain, and a crack spread between the two people, constantly spreading to both sides, as if they were going to separate the two. At the same time, countless boats on the hull of the ship were shattered and swept out by the violent force. Worthy of being the boss. This level of power. It's terrifying. This time, the boss has the upper hand. I didn't expect Marco's physical skills to be so strong. Fortunately, he has injuries, and this time the boss can take it down. The pirates, who were blown back by the terrifying storm formed by the battle between the two, stared at the place of the battle one by one, and when they saw that Dresk had the upper hand, they couldn't help but get excited about it, and said one by one excitedly. Marco, you're just that. I thought. How much power you can have. Break it to Lao Tzu. Dresk suddenly burst out of a powerful force again, and the terrifying explosive power of the animal system and ancient species was vividly displayed at this moment. Rumble. With the explosive power of Dresk, an even more powerful white cyclone was born, frantically raging towards Marco, blowing Marco's hair messy, and the clothes on his body made a burst of hunting sounds. Freeze it. As Marco's voice sounded, the blue flame above his right fist soared in vain, and the terrifying blue flame instantly started from the horn of the rhinoceros head and spread rapidly towards its body, and where the blue flame passed, a layer of blue ice appeared. The freezing breath emitting a biting chill continued to spread towards Dresk's body as the flames exploded. What is it? The moment he was invaded by the biting freezing air, Dresk was extremely shocked in his heart, and he could even feel his invincible, sharp corners that could shatter steel. Frozen by the ice, he didn't understand why Marco was able to use the power of freezing. Retreat, retreat. At this moment, Dresk only had one thought, and that was to retreat. Crazy, back away. It's too late. The speed of the blue flame skyrocketing was extremely exaggerated, almost in a few breaths, it had already enveloped the entire Dresk's huge body. Dresk, who was frantically retreating, froze instantly. His limbs still maintained a retreating movement, but he was motionless. What's going on? With the boss's body, he will definitely not be burned by flames, and his Lin armor can not only defend against material attacks, but also block the burning of flames. Nope. That blue flame is not a flame, it is. The moment the blue flames dissipated, what appeared in the eyes of many pirates was not the unharmed Dresk, nor the burnt rhinoceros, but a blue ice sculpture. A sculpture of a rhino frozen in ice. Episode 8. Whoosh. In an instant, all the pirates were in an uproar. They never thought that the flame could actually have the power of freezing, and they never thought that their boss, a man with a bounty of more than 600 million. How quickly it will be defeated. That blue flame is weird. It actually has the power of freezing. Is the fruit ability of the phantom beast really so weird? Not true. I saw the frozen boss's eyes move. The power of this freezing is far less than that of the frozen fruit of nature. The boss is not dead. It won't be long before the boss will break through the ice and freeze out. Let's go together. Hold on. Wait for the boss to come out and solve Marco together. Even if it can't be solved, we only need to drag Marco, and Captain Jack, who received the news, will definitely be able to arrive. Up. A group of pirates were frightened at first, one by one, shocked, but after all, They are pirates under the 4 emperors of the New World Kaido. Even the pirates of the squadron have experienced countless battles, and they will not be afraid to move because the enemy is Marco. This group of pirates rushed towards Marco in unison. The power of this frozen move really can't kill you. Marco didn't expect to be able to freeze Drusk to death. Looking at the pirates who rushed over, the corners of Marco's mouth were slightly upturned, although the power of freezing was not too strong, but don't underestimate it. Marco suddenly raised a kick, and with a loud bang, kicked the frozen Drusk into the sea. Boom! Not surprisingly, the huge ice sculpture rhinoceros fell into the sea, emitting a loud noise, stirring up waves several meters high. In this way, even if Drusk broke free from the freeze, even if the freeze thawed, waiting for him, only death remains. The pirates who rushed fiercely and saw this scene, they couldn't help but be stunned. Their boss kicked into the sea. The boss is a dry duck. Go and save the boss, incompetent, all jump. The pirates divided hundreds of incompetent people and rushed to the edge of the deck in unison, trying to jump into the sea and salvage Drusk. The rest of the pirates rushed towards Marco with a shout, trying to drag Marco. They know that on this pirate ship, only their boss is qualified to duel with Marco, and they, at most, it can hold on for a while. This is a very wise choice. The reality is not what they think. Whoosh whoosh. Before the pirates of the 100 Beast Pirates rushed out of the deck and jumped into the sea, a huge blue flame wing that was more than 10 meters long grew behind Marco, and at the same time Marco flew up, the pair of huge flame wings opened downward, and countless dense conical blue flame pillars were formed. Zyuxiuxiu. Dense blue flames, all in unison, shot towards the pirates below. Poof, poof. In a very short time, those pirates who tried to jump into the sea to save people were all frozen. One by one they kept running, and some even supported the fence on the edge of the deck to make the action of jumping into the sea, and the result? All frozen. Let's go down to the funeral together. Marco flapped his huge flaming wings, slid downward, and suddenly slapped the frozen pirates into the sea, plopping down, and the frozen pirates, like stones, were all slapped into the sea, splashing one after another. The rest of the pirates who originally rushed towards Marco were stunned one by one. They just rushed over, only to find that Marco flew away, and then saw those companions all frozen, all shot away. Don't feel sorry for them. After all, you will go with them too. Marco collected his blue flaming wings, stood at the bow of the boat, looked at hundreds of pirates, and spoke. At this time, Marco stood alone at the bow of the ship, opposite hundreds of pirates of the 100 Beast Pirates. Hulala! Suddenly, the fierce sea breeze blew, blowing up all the broken wood on the deck due to the battle, and with a click, the huge mast that hoisted the flag of the 100 Beasts pirate group was seriously damaged by the battle, and suddenly made a breaking sound, and then collapsed with a bang. Escape! The hundreds of pirates on the opposite side, facing Marco alone, did not choose to continue fighting, but chose desertion. Originally, they still retained the desire to fight, but at this moment, be scared by Marco alone. There are small boats hanging between the waist of the huge pirate ship. As long as you jump on the boat and put down the sea, you can escape. You can't escape. Marco walked step by step towards these pirates. Fight. It's already started. The enemy is not dead. The battle won't stop. Marco has begun to adapt to this world of pirates full of crises, even start liking this one-man lifestyle. This is a sea full of dangers, a sea full of unknowns, but also a sea full of opportunities and expectations, and the sea of Wan Yang that makes people's blood boil. Episode 9. Hundreds of pirates faced Marco alone and were scared out of their guts. The strength shown by Marco really exceeded their expectations, and this was the first time they had seen Marco who was able to bear fruits in the animal system, who could actually freeze people. Fantastic. Escape. This is everyone's idea. They don't think that they can beat Marco. Choose to escape is the best choice. We fled separately, he is alone, he will definitely not be able to catch up with us. Yes, just escape, hold on time, wait for Captain Jack to come, and we will be saved. When the time comes, avenge Boss Drusk again. Avenge all those who died. Kill Marco. This group of pirates fled from all sides of the pirate ship, and the Devil Fruit ability chose to jump on the small boat out of the pirate ship's waist, and the non-capable people jumped directly into the sea in a vain attempt to escape. Since it is an enemy, how can I let you escape? The blue flame wings on Marco's back, which were more than 10 meters long, shook suddenly, and the whole person accelerated out. Airplanes. A blue flaming spear appeared in Marco's hand. The spear surrounded by blue flames exuded a terrifying aura. Marco wielded the spear and killed all the pirates he encountered in the way. This move was thought of in the battle with the green pheasant, using the fruit ability to imitate a weapon with great lethality. Marco is like a wolf into a flock, no one can stop it. Ah. The screams continued to sound, and the screams echoed above the entire huge pirate ship. During the flight, Marco's pair of huge flaming wings fanned out cone-shaped flames in the sky, pouring out like a sudden rain towards the pirates who tried to jump into the sea and escape. Poof! The blue flame hit those pirates who jumped into the sea and jumped ship, almost in the blink of an eye. They pierced them, and then, one pirate after another fell towards the sea, and in the process of their fall, their bodies turned into ice sculptures. Whether it is a jumping ship or a pirate jumping into the sea, they are all frozen and finally fall into the sea. Whoosh! In the end, Marco killed the pirates of an entire pirate ship by himself, and the flaming wings that were more than 10 meters long were retracted, and Marco landed on the bloody deck, and the bodies on it had been picked up and thrown into the sea, and he was left alone on the deck of the ship. From their conversation, it seems Drought Jack is on his way here. Drought Jack, a confidant of Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, is one of the famous 3 great catastrophes, nicknamed Drought, because the place where he stepped on dried up and decayed like a drought ray, and eventually perished. The big signboard of the 100 Beasts Pirates, the captain of the Mammoth, has a bounty of up to 1 billion berry. Devil Fruit animal lineage, ancient species, elephant fruit, mammoth form, ability. This guy's strength is terrifying. In the original book, he faced the Wheel War of Duke Inuarashi and the boss of the Cat Pit Viper, and the sleepless battle was 5 days and 5 nights without winning or losing. After that, he immediately went to rescue Doflamingo, and in the face of the 4 warships carrying Admiral Fujitora, former Marshal Sengoku, and Vice Admiral Tsuru still did not hesitate to attack, sinking 2 of them and retreating with their whole body. Marco thought of Drought Jack and couldn't help but stir up a belligerent heart in his heart. Unlike the green pheasants he met before, Drought Jack is a real enemy. Once a battle breaks out between the 2, only one person must survive, the other. Death. Marco will definitely not allow himself to die at the hands of the enemy. Drought Jack, perhaps, we'll meet soon. Marco is most concerned about not Drought Jack now, but Blackbeard. Blackbeard. How many people did he reveal the direction of my previous escape? But he now understood that he wanted to kill Blackbeard. Their own strength is far from enough. Blackbeard alone has the ability to defeat any devil fruit with one hand, which is enough to make countless people tremble. What's more, Blackbeard took away Whitebeard's shock fruit ability. Double fruit ability. Not only that, if I'm not mistaken, in the original book, Blackbeard, who has not yet obtained the dark fruit, has been able to leave 3 scars on the face of red-haired Shanks. Thinking of this, Marco couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart, and secretly decided that he must constantly enhance his strength, not only to develop stronger devil fruit ability, but also to continuously improve his physical skills. Moreover, the faster you improve your strength, the better. So, he needs to fight constantly, to improve your strength. Blackbeard. In this life, I will never die at anyone's hands. It will not die in your hands, thundered. At this time, the originally clear sky, suddenly appeared a sky full of thunderclouds. Black pressing thunderclouds covered the sky. Omen, bad weather, lightning and thunder, violent storm, is coming. The weather of the New World has always been like this, don't expect this Wanyang Sea. Be able to calm down. Marco looked at the blackened sky dome and walked into the cabin, which had been damaged a lot in the previous battle, but there was still some undamaged, enough to shelter from the wind and rain and live. Help me. Not long after Marco entered the cabin, he heard someone crying for help in the depths of the cabin, and he walked all the way to the 2nd floor of the cabin, where he saw a woman in a black prison. Wow. A blue flame burned in Marco's palm, illuminating the dark cabin, and then he could see clearly that the person being detained was a girl with a ponytail. Moya was 18 or 19 years old. Help me. The girl looked at Marco, the blue flame reflected in her big eyes, dancing gently. I'm a pirate. Marco just wants to live, and doesn't want to save someone who has nothing to do with him. Even if she is saved now, above this barren sea, if no one takes care of her, she will not live long. Now Marco, I don't have the heart to bring a dragwhale bottle. You're not with them. The girl blinked her wide, her eyes shining. Huh? How do you know? Marco was surprised. I've never met you, so you're certainly not part of their gang. The pirate group I was originally in was killed by them, leaving me alone. Because I'm a very good navigator, but I was unlucky to meet them. Voyager? When did the Voyager become so cheap? Do you really go full of navigators? Such a little girl actually dares to call herself an excellent navigator, bragging without such a bragging. Quite a smart person, actually likes to brag. Marco couldn't help but shake his head. How good are you, huh? The girl was stunned for a moment. She seemed to misunderstand Marco's words, and hurriedly said, even in the worst weather, I can set sail separately. Find the nearest island. Marco couldn't help but smile. Episode 10. Under the blue flames, you can see the serious expression on the girl's dirty face, and the big smart eyes are particularly eye-catching. Forget it, save you once. Marco shook his head helplessly, tapped the lock with one hand, and released the girl. Thank you. You're welcome. The storm is coming outside, what you call worst weather. Marco smiled rarely, and he looked at the girl with a smile. It's time to show real technology, huh? The girl snorted, she touched her dirty face pitifully. I'm not ready, really. It's a bragging girl. Marco spread his hands. What do you want to prepare? The girl hesitated, her big smart eyes flickering at Marco before finally saying, I think. Take a shower, Marco, isn't it embarrassing? The girl's face turned red. How could you tell a strange man about such a thing as bathing? Fortunately, she looked dirty and covered her red appearance. Wash it, the rainstorm is estimated to come again, you go to the upper cabin to find the bathroom yourself. Marco smiled indifferently, he didn't expect this girl to be really a navigator, he didn't expect this girl to steer the pirate ship, he inherited the original memory, there is knowledge about steering, you can rely on yourself. That's great. The girl smiled excitedly, she showed two small tiger teeth, looked at Marco and said, by the way, I forgot to tell you my name is Bolivia. What is your name, Marco? Nice to meet you. Marco, how happy, Bolivia. Marco shook his head, this girl is not only brag, but also naive and simple, just came out of the cage, she was happy? God knows why the pirates of the 100 Beasts pirates didn't slaughter her, maybe because she was ugly? Marco, who couldn't see the girl's face clearly, thought so. To be able for such a girl to survive on this treacherous sea is simply marvel. Marco turned to leave, he had to go to the upper cabin to find something to eat, he was independent since he was a child, his cooking skills were still good, as for the girls, he didn't take too much care, anyway. The next island, it will definitely be separated. Belivia was like a kitten, tiptoeing behind Marco, her mind turned and turned, wanting to find something to talk about, she had always talked about it, and finally she didn't find a topic to talk about, so she could only silently go to the bathroom. Time flickered, more than an hour passed. The sky outside became darker and darker, and light rain began to fall, washing the deck. Tuck tuck. Marco knocked on the bathroom door and thought, can girls wash like this? It's been more than an hour, and I haven't come out yet, I made some food, if you're hungry, come and eat something. A girl's voice came from inside, okay. Right away, squeak. As soon as Marco turned around, he heard the sound of the door opening, couldn't help but turn his head, just wanted to speak, but was stunned for a while. The black hair originally tied in a ponytail has just been washed, straight draped over the half-exposed shoulders, a delicate little face still retains a purity and innocence, wearing a large white loose shirt on the upper body, Bolivia pulled the hair around the earlobe, revealing two white little tiger teeth, and smiled sweetly. Is there anything to eat? I'm so hungry. I'm very well fed, and I've not been a picky eater since I was a child. Nice and cute. Kids, girl. Follow me. Marco shook his head, shook off the cranky thoughts in his head, and soon, he took Bolivia to the restaurant. Wow. So much delicious. Bolivia saw a table of delicacies, and said with a leaping smile, it's almost drooling just by looking at it, it must be delicious. I'm going to eat, let's eat. Marco wondered if he had some misunderstanding of Bolivia, this girl. It seems that it has nothing to do with ugliness at all, is it true that the pirates in the past did not kill her, they really fancy her? Excellent navigator status? Perhaps, the dirty look on her face before was deliberately made by her. After all, this is a girl who looks simple and actually smart. It looks a little bit similar to Nami. Delicious. Delicious, delicious, delicious. So delicious. I've never eaten such good food, Bolivia kept exclaiming while eating. She used a small fork in her right hand to fork a piece of cut roast meat, eating it beautifully, and with her left hand she used a knife to pry open a huge golden bread crab. In the end, Bolivia also ate less than a fifth of Marco's food. Bolivia, who finished cleaning up the dishes and chopsticks, stood on the side, looked at Marco lying on the deck chair and asked curiously, what about the original pirates on this pirate ship? Dead. Are they all dead? It's all dead. They were all killed by you? Bolivia's petite body trembled, covering her small mouth, her face full of surprised expressions. Hundreds of pirates. You alone, kill them all, prick. At this moment, lightning streaked across the sky and shone on Marco's face. Thundered. Hulala. Thunder suddenly exploded, the rain became heavier and heavier, and finally. The storm is coming. Not good. Bolivia was suddenly startled, not caring about Marco's answer, nor the previous surprise, she hurriedly ran out of the cabin. Is there a tip? $1 is good, let the author be excited. Episode 11, no more. The hull of the ship was badly damaged, and all the sails had to be taken away. What to do? It's too windy. The rain is also heavy. Torrential rain penetrates down the deck, and the hull will become heavier and heavier. Going with the wind we will stray further and further away from the island, and against the wind our ship is now in bad condition that cannot withstand the baptism of storm. Let me think about it. 45 degrees to the north, sail at full speed, rush out of the thundercloud area, we can be safe. Left full rudder, Marco, quick, come and help me. When Marco heard Bolivia's words, he roared, and a pair of blue flame wings more than 10 meters long grew behind him, and with a bang, the whole person flew into the air. It's the wings. Oh, my god. Bolivia was stunned, the first time she saw Marco use the fruit ability, the pair of blue flame wings that were more than 10 meters long, and Bolivia's whole person couldn't help but be stunned. I saw Marco flap his flaming wings, fly into the air, raise his hand, and the huge sail was directly cut off, and fell down with a roar. The rain passed through Marco's pair of blue flaming wings, but could not extinguish the flames. This blue flame does not have the scorching high temperature of ordinary flames, but it cannot be extinguished by water. Bolivia opened her small mouth, looking up at the pair of blue flame wings that shocked her in midair. Looking up from her angle, countless rain poured from the sky through Marco's side, and was reflected in blue by the blue flames, the crystal clear blue rain, falling from the sky, beautiful, so beautiful, wow, crash. The entire huge pirate ship, with a total of 6 sails, was damaged on both sides in the previous battle, and even the mast was broken. With 4 sides left, Marco cut off both sails, leaving them to be put away. Trample. Marco landed, and at this time, Bolivia woke up from her dream, and she who was at the helm quickly lowered her head. Your nautical skills are good. Marco smiled, and sure enough. I underestimated her before, and she was really unlikable, and a young girl, facing the storms and waves of the new world, was actually able to control in an orderly manner calmly. Bolivia heard Marco's praise, her heart snickered, she raised her head, looked at the clouds in the sky seriously, felt the wind direction, judged the wind level, and finally looked at Marco with big eyes. We will soon get through this storm. In the storm, the sea surface stirred up huge waves, originally calm waves. At this moment, countless waves rolling, a full 10 meters high waves, the huge pirate ship constantly impacted, the entire pirate ship continued to sway, like a flatboat in the sea. The bad weather in the New World is capricious, and far more dangerous than any other sea. Ultimately, the thunderclouds dissipated, the storm receded, and under the command of Bolivia, the pirate ship finally survived this baptism of bad weather. Hainan also calmed down, and a few marine fish jumped out of the sea, stirring up small waves. The sun also came out, and the golden sunlight scattered down. Phew. Bolivia breathed a sigh of relief, secretly glad that she had demonstrated her nautical skills in front of Marco for the first time, without any errors of judgment or twists and turns, and calmly weathered the storm. Marco looked down at Moyo's 18 or 19-year-old Bolivia. Her clothes were already soaked, her long black hair drooped against her back, and there were little rain beads on her delicate and somewhat innocent face, which made her more playful and cute. Wow. Look, there's a rainbow on the sea. Bolivia pointed to the other side, jumping excitedly. Marco looked over, and above the sea in the distance, there was indeed a rainbow, which looked beautiful after the wind and rain. Huh? But while Marco saw the rainbow, he also saw a fleet heading towards his side. There's a pirate ship over there. 6 in total, Bolivia exclaimed almost at the same time. It is not a good thing to meet a pirate ship on the sea of the New World. She knows this very well. Bolivia can't help but get nervous. She doesn't know where to take out the telescope. Look over, their pirate flag. I've seen it, yes? Marco took the telescope handed over by Bolivia, and was surprised that Bolivia had a telescope. Where did you get it? Bolivia stuck out her tongue and said playfully, when I was looking for the bathroom before. Take it in your hand. It's not stealing, it's quite clever. Marco picked up the telescope at this time, looked ahead, 6 huge pirate ships, lined up in a line, sailing quickly. He looked at the other party's pirate flag, his eyes couldn't help but flash a coldness, and secretly said in his heart, it's very clever. Where did I see that pirate flag? But I couldn't remember it for a while. Bolivia pouted, thought hard, still didn't remember where she had seen it, and patted her forehead in frustration for a while. Why am I so stupid? I know. Marco said with a smile. He reached out and rubbed Bolivia's head, still emitting a scented strand of hair wet. You go take another shower, change your wet clothes, dry your wet hair and come out, huh? Bolivia subconsciously wanted to bow her head to avoid Marco's action of rubbing her hair, which was her usual vigilant habit, but at the moment of looking down, Bolivia involuntarily stayed for a moment and did not bow her head to avoid. This little action did not hide from Marco's eyes. It seems vigilant, and it is no wonder that it has survived on this dangerous sea until now. Go ahead. Wash slowly, then you. This? I know them. Marco pointed to the 6 pirate ships that were getting closer and closer ahead, and said, don't hold me back. Otherwise it will leave you alone. Humph, little Jonah. Bolivia hummed and muttered in a low voice, I won't hold you back. After saying that, she looked at Marco nervously. Is it an enemy? What if they shell us from a distance? Our ships. The damage is a bit serious. That's not right, we can change ships. Looking at Bolivia's cute look of worry, Marco couldn't help but smile and quipped, if you don't leave the deck, you will become a drag whale bottle. The 6 menacing pirate ships ahead have been. It's getting closer. Episode 12. The 6 pirate ships traveling in the opposite direction. Each pirate ship hung a huge pirate flag. The pirate flag fluttered in the wind, quite eye-catching, especially the pattern, so that countless pirates in the New World will not feel afraid. The flag motif is a top hat and collar studded with fluff, and a beckoning skeleton smeared with lipstick. This indicates that these 6 pirate ships belong to the big MOM pirate group led by Charlotte Lingling, one of the 4 emperors of the New World Monarch landing. Led by one of the largest pirate ships, above deck. A pirate respectfully said to Charlotte Owen, who was sitting in front of him, Lord Owen. A pirate ship was spotted ahead. Is it sunk? A man with golden orange hair, a 3-bladed hairstyle like flames, a beard on the chin, and looks like a professional boxer, no clothes on the upper body, only a cape, a pair of gloves, and orange pants, sitting on a large chair with a big horse knife. This person is Charlotte Owen, the baking minister of the Big Mom Pirates. Whose pirate flag is it flying? Charlotte Owen asked casually. His subordinate replied, there is no pirate flag, then sink. A sucker. Such trifles have to be reported to me. What a fool. Charlotte Owen puffed out her eyes, and his temper was hot. He immediately shouted loudly, very grumpy, and his mood changed extremely quickly. I'm sorry, the subordinates immediately let people sink it. The subordinate was so frightened that his legs weakened and immediately fled. Boom. A barrage of shells roared towards the pirate ship where Marco was. They really want to sink us. Before Bolivia could turn around and enter the cabin, she saw a dense black bomb coming at her, and her eyes widened for a while, and she said nervously. Whoosh. The wings behind Marco stretched out, a huge blue flame wing more than 10 meters long. Marco flew up, he volleyed in the air, streaked a brilliant arc in the air, leaving a little blue flame like starlight. As Marco flapped his wings, the wind raged for a while, and blue flames split out from the wings, pouring towards the densely whistling shells. Blah blah. The dense shells exploded in front of the pirate ship, like fireworks that exploded one after another, brilliant and gorgeous. Oh. Bolivia covered her mouth, looking at the gorgeous picture in the air in front of her. She couldn't help but be stunned, and then she reacted and hurriedly said, I'll go find the battery control room. We fight back against them. Marco fell. You still control the battery? Of course. I'm very smart. I've read a lot of knowledge in books before. Though. This is my first real battle. Bolivia tried hard to show herself. She was afraid that Marco would leave her alone, and her small face looked very hard. I estimated the speed of the enemy and our ships. If we lose our heads and escape, we can't escape at all. She tiptoed, waved her fist, and said with a serious face, you can't always be beaten without fighting back. Makes sense. Marco nodded and quipped in a serious way, go ahead, let your ingenuity run wild. However, I advise you that it is better to find a side battery, so that you will at least not hold me back. I won't hold you back. Bolivia turned and ran into the cabin with a puff. Go find the battery control room she wants. On the other side, Charlotte Owen's pirate ship. Captain, the shell has been intercepted. Not a single hit. The pirates who controlled the battery reported to the squad leader. Then keep bombing. Lord Owen said, directly sink it. Fools, hurry up and get on the shells. Lord Owen's temper is also hot. Someone whispered. Shut up, fool. If you let Lord Owen hear it, you and I will have to bake you. Boom. The second round of shells bombarded out again, pouring towards Marco's pirate ship. At this time, the distance between the two sides has been getting closer, and the naked eye can see the situation on the deck of each other's ships, and the fierce artillery fire is almost without exception all pouring towards the deck. Soon, all the shells were intercepted in the air again, erupting into brilliant fireworks. Captain. Stopped again. It seems that a strong enemy has been encountered, damn it. Boom. At this moment, a cannonball shot from Marco's pirate ship and shot at Charlotte Owen with great precision. Not good. The rest of the pirates were frightened, not afraid of the power of the shell, but afraid that the shell would anger Charlotte Owen. Huh? Charlotte Owen, who was sitting with a golden knife, lifted his eyelids, and in the face of the fierce shells, he leaned out a hand in vain. Actually caught the shell. Not only that, Charlotte Owen's hand that caught the shell instantly became as red as a soldering iron, which was a shell that should have exploded at high temperatures. It melted unbelievably. The shells turned into bits of reddish liquid and dripped onto the deck, making a few popping sounds. This is melted. This is superhuman hot fruit ability. Episode 13. Lord Owen is so powerful. Actually melted the shell directly before it exploded. What a terrifying temperature. When Charlotte Owen grabbed the shell and melted the shell, the scorching feeling of high temperature spread throughout the pirate ship, and for a time, the temperature of the entire pirate ship increased a lot, and the pirates on board who were slightly weaker began to sweat, and these pirates looked at Charlotte Owen one by one, showing awe. The strong, anywhere, can be respected. Superman Hot Fruit was developed to a considerable extent by Charlotte Owen, not to mention, he is also the own son of the four emperors. Even if he looks at the entire great passage of the New World, he is definitely a figure that makes countless pirates awe-inspiring. Why haven't you sunk the pirate ship in front of you yet? Charlotte Owen looked a little unpleasant. The subordinates on the side couldn't help but tremble one by one, feeling the atmosphere of Charlotte Owen's imminent storm, one of them hurriedly said, "The characters on the enemy pirate ship seem to be very strong, our shells. They were all intercepted by him. But we will soon be able to catch up, and when the time comes, directly kill the pirate ship and slaughter those guys who don't have long eyes." Charlotte Owen seemed to calm the flame temper that was about to erupt. That pirate ship, how many pirates, this? The subordinates looked left and right. I really didn't pay attention to this just now. The other party. There is only one person, another subordinate interjected with a trembling voice. Only one? Charlotte Owen stretched out her hand in vain and grabbed the subordinate who had just spoken, and a puff of white smoke came out of his palm, and the terrifying hot heat was about to erupt. "Lord Owen, spare your life." Lord Owen spares his life. Enemies are there. It's only one person." The captured pirate turned blue with fright, and while desperately begging for mercy, his finger pointed forward in midair, and the fear of death made his entire face begin to distort and deform. Charlotte Owen is angry and will definitely kill him. Together with Charlotte Owen, everyone looked at the direction of the pirate. I saw that in the middle of the air ahead, a man was fanning a pair of blue flame wings more than 10 meters long. The blue flames flickered and jumped in midair, and every time he flapped his wings, there would be a whistling sound accompanied by a sound, like a gust of wind. For a time, many pirates couldn't help but be shocked. Some of the pirates on the ship didn't know Marco, and couldn't help but ask, and even some pirates didn't know what kind of fruit ability this was. Animal department, phantom beast species, undead bird fruit ability. Charlotte Owen snorted coldly. Others may not know Marco, but as one of the ministers of the Big Mom pirate group, he is very familiar with Marco. After the death of Whitebeard in the Top War, the Big Mom pirate group did not swallow the territory of the Whitebeard pirate group, and Charlotte Owen personally led the fleet, hunted down and killed the pirate group under the Whitebeard pirate group, and personally killed many pirates under the Whitebeard pirate group. It's just that Charlotte Owen didn't expect to meet Marco here. Immortal bird fruit. Undead bird Marco? Captain Marco of the Whitebeard Pirates? The captured pirate cried out in surprise. Some of the pirates showed surprise. There are even many pirates who make the sound of pumping air. Marco. That's the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. Before they actually bombed Marco's pirate ship. Now that I think about it, I feel that my legs and feet are soft for a while. The Whitebeard Pirates no longer exist. The position of the four emperors does not have a seat in his white-bearded pirate group. Marco, who is only a remnant of it, can also take you down to the city like this? What a bunch of trash. Charlotte Owen grabbed the palm of his subordinate and suddenly pinched it hard. Under this pinch, the terrifying high temperature instantly broke out. The white smoke was born in an instant, and his palm also turned into a hot color in the white smoke, like a soldering iron. Ah. Charlotte Owen's subordinates let out a miserable cry. Charlotte Owen was unimpressed. Streams of white smoke continued to emerge from his palm, and the cadre he grabbed only screamed, and the whole person was already dead. Not only that, the terrifying high temperature, but also accompanied by the rise of white smoke, the corpse was directly melted. When the white smoke dissipated, only a pinch of ashes remained in Charlotte Owen's hand, which was discarded by Charlotte Owen at her feet. Hiss. A group of pirates gasped in their hearts one by one. At this moment, it was clear that the temperature around them was as hot as in the oven, but this group of subordinates felt cold and stiff one by one, and did not dare to make the slightest sound, for fear of angering Charlotte Owen, inviting murder, and the bones were gone. Crash. At this time, suddenly the wind was raging. I don't know when. Marco had already flapped his flaming wings that were more than 10 meters long, flew over. He looked down at Charlotte Owen on the deck below, and said calmly, "Shall I call you Flamehead, or call you a barbecue box? Actually, it doesn't matter what it's called, there is only one result: you want to kill me. That is, death." Episode 14. A pirate group that can't even keep the position of the four emperors, a pirate who has fled all over the world, and survives, actually dares to be so presumptuous and rampant. Charlotte Owen stood up suddenly, and his orange hair like 3 tufts of flames instantly stood up one by one. Boom. At this moment, a cannonball whistled at an unknown time, and Charlotte Owen, who focused on Marco, hit. The explosion sounded, the fire splashed everywhere, and mushroom-like smoke was instantly generated. When the smoke cleared, Charlotte Owen's original orange 3 clusters of flame hairstyle were dyed black, there was black smoke between his hair, and his face was also covered with a layer of burnt black, incomparable. Comical. A group of Charlotte Owen's subordinates, seeing such a comic picture, held back a strong smile one by one, and did not dare to laugh. Puffaha. Looking at the scene below, even Marco was amused, but I didn't expect that the little girl Bolivia actually gave a shot so coincidentally, and came to such a masterpiece. Of course, Marco also understands that this kind of shell with little destructive power will at most make Charlotte Owen a little embarrassed, not to mention, this shell can hit Charlotte Owen, only because Marco attracts everyone's attention. As soon as Marco's laughter came out, for a while, all the pirates on the deck couldn't hold back their laughter and laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Ha. Belch. Ha. One by one, the pirates tried to cover their mouths with their hands, but they still laughed out loud. This is miserable. You guys are really looking for death. Charlotte Owen, who had a black charcoal haircut, instantly became angry. Give Lao Tzu to die. Fools who laugh at Lao Tzu. Airplanes. The terrifying temperature instantly erupted from Charlotte Owen, and a circle of ripples appeared in the air centered on it, rapidly spreading out in all directions. The hot air was like a visible strength, and where the ripples passed, all the pirates made a pig-like scream. Immediately after, this group of pirates close to Charlotte Owen's side, one by one, while emitting a puff of blue smoke, gradually dried up, and when their eyes lost their vitality, they knocked and fell to the ground one by one like dried corpses. The terrifying heat roasted them to dry people. What a horrible heat. Even Marco couldn't help but be surprised. Sure enough, the ministers of the Big Mom Pirates should not be underestimated. This Charlotte Owen is not simple. Marco. Get me down. Charlotte Owen let out a long roar of fury, and the temperature around her became more terrifying, and the air seemed to be distorted and deformed, extremely terrifying. Charlotte Owen, who was burly and as tall as 5 meters, suddenly grabbed a huge knife that was 7 or 8 meters long with both hands, and the whole person burst out with a powerful explosive force, soaring into the sky, and slashed at Marco in vain. Hot slash. Rumble. In the process of slashing at Marco with a piercing whistling sound, the wide and sharp blade burned into a blazing high-temperature flame in an instant, and the entire blade was as hot as a soldering iron, and even the air around the blade became distorted. This blazing slash slashes straight at Marco. Oh. Marco did not retreat. His pair of blue flame wings that were more than 10 meters long suddenly shook, and the whole person swooped down towards Charlotte Owen, like an eagle hunting its prey, brave and domineering. As Marco swooped down, his feet changed shape, turning into the claws of the undead bird, and blue flames danced above his claws, and a strong stream of freezing gas was born. Lord Owen. Completely stormed. Such a terrifying heat, such a distance. I feel that it is difficult to be at the limit, as if the air is burned clean and I can't breathe. That's Marco. Is he crazy? He didn't choose to avoid the edge for a while, but swooped down. This? It's simply sending a blade and looking for death. The pirates on the other 5 pirate ships looked at the battle site above the main ship one by one, and exclamations continued to come out of their mouths. Bellow. All this is a long story, but in fact, it only happened in a very short moment. Marco, who dived down, directly grabbed the big slasher that burned with hot flames. The two forces collided, and a strong impact fluctuation was formed instantly, bursting out with the blade of the big slashing knife as the center, and a circle of white energy appeared in the air, swinging rapidly. Prick. In the face of the terrifying aura that erupted, the sails and pirate flags on the mast of this huge pirate ship bore the brunt. Whether it was the sails or the pirate flag representing Anti, they were directly smashed into countless pieces almost at the same time. It's too late and too fast, just in this instant. Sudden change. I saw that the big chopping knife held by Marco, the burning and extremely hot big chopping knife, was actually directly covered with a layer of blue flame, and the blue flame spread rapidly towards Charlotte Owen along the big chopper. Wherever the blue flames passed, they all turned into ice. The big chopping knife with high heat, belching white smoke. It was not a white fog caused by the heat, but freezing gas. This being a chopper, was directly frozen. The blue freezing gas spread rapidly, and Charlotte Owen's arms holding the big slasher were also frozen instantly. At this moment, Charlotte Owen's face. Instant change. Episode 15. Charlotte Owen burst out of power in vain, and her body fell sharply from midair, trying to avoid Marco's blue flames that bloomed with a freezing breath. It's just that Charlotte Owen was still a step slower after all, and the freezing gas continued to cover her body during its fall, freezing above his body. Boom. Charlotte Owen just landed on the deck, and the terrifying freezing air had completely frozen it, and at this moment, Charlotte Owen became a blue ice sculpture. This is? Frozen by the flames? No, it's impossible. Lord Owen was frozen by Marco's blue flame? Why does the flame have the power of freezing? That. It's obviously a flame. At this moment, I don't know how many pirates were shocked. They saw for the first time that Marco's undead bird flame actually had the power of freezing. The brilliant blue flame, reflected in the eyes of all pirates, an unprecedented sense of fear, swept through the hearts of all pirates. Trample. Marco retracted his wings, his feet changed back to their normal form, and landed on the deck. The reason why he chose to change his feet into the form of the claws of the undead bird is to enhance his defense to prevent being slashed by the slash, and second, to grab the slashing knife. Once the animal fruit ability changes form, whether it is strength or defensibility, it must be increased by a level. In addition, Marco did not change his hands into flame wings according to the top war, but transformed flame wings on his back. Firstly, it is a personal habit, and secondly, it is also to facilitate battle, and the blue flame of the undead bird is not limited to changing the body into form. Whoosh! Just after Marco fell, the blue ice above Charlotte Owen's body melted rapidly, and white smoke rose with it. No, this is not melting, but Charlotte Owen directly turned the ice into water vapor with the scorching heat. Lord Owen. Safe and sound, phew. I said, how could Lord Owen be frozen? Even if it is frozen, it will melt quickly. Don't forget, he's a superhuman hot fruit ability, Lord Owen. You won't fail easily. Even if the opponent is Marco, the pirates on the pirate ships around couldn't help but cheer excitedly when they saw Charlotte Owen breaking the ice. The freezing gas produced by Marco with blue flames is certainly not as powerful as the frozen fruits of nature. The previous Dresk can also shatter the ice with the power of a strong physical body, but the time required for this shattering process is far more than Charlotte Owen. Before Dresk shattered the ice, he was kicked into the sea by Marco, and only death awaited him. Hoo. Charlotte Owen was covered in hot white steam, his body was constantly undulating, gasping for breath, obviously, breaking the ice, and at the same time consuming a lot of his physical energy. Oh, at this time a group of pirates jumped from the rest of the pirate ships, and on the deck of the largest giant pirate ship, thousands of pirates gathered for a time. These pirates are the most powerful existence in this fleet. These pirates understand that once Charlotte Owen dies, the result that awaits them is also death. Let's go together, delay Lord Owen and let him recover his strength. Kill. Whoosh. One pirate after another rushed towards Marco, and the strong sound of breaking wind continued to sound, and one figure after another rushed towards Marco. The tactics of the sea of people against me. Useless. Marco faced thousands of pirates who rushed to kill. His face was calm, his hand suddenly opened, and the blue flames transformed into a cold blue halberd. Marco held a light blue halberd surrounded by freezing air, did not retreat, and rushed towards thousands of pirates. Rumble. Marco danced the halberd and swept over. For a time countless pirates were directly lifted off. Not only that, these pirates who were lifted away, almost the next second, were directly frozen. Many pirates were frozen and fell directly into the sea, splashing one wave after another. Marco was like a pass, sweeping all the way. I don't know how many pirates were cut off, some were directly killed, those strong pirates resisted the slashing, and finally frozen. Rush. At this moment, the pirates on the rest of the pirate ships jumped on this main ship, and all the pirates, densely packed like a tide, were endless. All of them rushed to Marco fiercely and killed. Crash. Huge blue flame wings appeared behind Marco, and the wings that were more than 10 meters long shook in vain, and Marco's whole person rushed out of the crowd like a tide, and blue flames fluttered in the sky. Marco, who flew in midair, flipped his body and swooped down towards the deck below, and the battle halberd in his hand that was several meters long boomed, and the blue flame instantly swirled around it, fiercely slashing at Charlotte Owen below. Kill. Charlotte Owen below grabbed the big knife on the side, and the orange-red flames roared around it, and he jumped to meet Marco and slashed upwards. Thundered. The terrifying coercion erupted with Marco swooping down, and the huge battle halberd surrounded by blue flames. The huge blue flame wings that were more than 10 meters long swooped down at a rapid speed with the momentum of thunder, and for a while, it was like a blue sky dome pressing down. Rumble. 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 As the two powerful forces collided together, a deafening terrifying roar erupted. A circle of terrifying blue and red ripples up and down, centered on the falling point, burst out instantly, and the blue light spread like an explosion, constantly sweeping across the entire deck of the huge pirate ship. Between the sky, it seems that there are only these two colors left. At this moment, countless pirates were instantly lifted away. Thundered. The blue coercion that fell from the sky continued to press down, and the terrifying power continued to erupt from Marco's hands, constantly destroying Charlotte Owen below.